was laughing with those children. They were all incredibly happy. And it gave me such a good feeling because that's how it used to be with Harry. But they must be kind of worried. That's quite frightening. And I'm sure William would be quite concerned about that. When the King was taken ill earlier this year, lots of engagement she carried out on her own. So, you know, this woman is a powerful person in the life of the royal family.
Hi, I'm Matt Wilkinson, The Sun's Royal Editor, and welcome to Royal Exclusive. With me today in the studio is legendary Sun royal photographer Arthur Edwards. Welcome, Arthur.
Thank you, Matt. It's nice to be here again.
Good. My first question for you is, Arthur, do you have a tattoo?
No, I don't. And if I had a tattoo, my mother would have killed me. She would have made me go and get it ripped off. And I remember it would have been hell in my house if I'd have done that. So no, I know. And actually, I feel I've got a strange view about tattoos. You know, I think, why do people want to do that to themselves?
Well, Harry almost had a tattoo.
Well,
have you seen the footage where he was in New York a couple of weeks ago and there was lots of speculation, why had he gone into this tattoo parlour? Was it a stunt? Was it some kind of midlife crisis that he needed to go and have a tattoo? We finally found the answer. He has had a little skit with a tattoo artist and a musician called Jelly Roll, I believe. No, I've not heard of him either. Yeah. And he's had a kind of fake tattoo done on his neck to promote Invictus Games. He appears quite happy this week, Harry. He's been up in Canada. What do you think?
I must say, there's a picture in the papers this week of Harry with all those young kids in Vancouver in Canada, and it was to do with Invictus, but he was on the stage with them and he was laughing with those children. They were all incredibly happy. And it gave me such a good feeling because that's how it used to be with Harry. I mean, I've photographed with children all over the world, in New Zealand, in Brazil, in Barbados, and in Lesotho, where he started that amazing charity for young people. So, you know, with young people, he becomes a child himself, and that gave me such a buzz. And I wondered why, because recently we've been seeing Harry looking really miserable. And I suppose you've got to figure that it was Invictus Games, which of course he's incredibly fond of and quite rightly should be proud of it because it's an amazing thing that he's achieved there. But it was seeing with them young people that it was such a great feeling. The last job I did with Harry here before he left this country was with young people up at a school in Luton, and I was looking at that picture today. And they were so happy, and he was so happy to be involved with them. So yeah, that was a bit of a buzz for me.
It's very strange you talk about the last job that you did with Harry in the UK. The last job I did when he was a working royal was at the Commonwealth Day ceremony in 2020, and he had a face of thunder. But you know that was the last kind of their last hurrah, where they went to the Commonwealth Day ceremony and left looking really angry. Well, the Invictus Games is going to happen in February next year, so I think we're about 85 days away from it actually taking place. And he was there to kind of promote it a little bit and talk about the games coming up, but also they've got this new system where they're actually going to be teaching about the Invictus Games in schools in Canada. And I think that's why he was with these young children. So they're actually going to talk about what's happened to soldiers, how they train, how they get back to normal, how they get over trauma. He appears to be expanding. Queen Camilla's had a difficult couple of weeks because she's got this honorary doctorate for literature, which is wonderful, but also she's had her chest infection, which has kept her out of several engagements, back this week. And she's also had the sad news of her dog, Beth, has died. I mean, what do you think about... You know Camilla quite well. How would she have been affected by the death of Beth, her rescue dog? Well,
first and foremost, you know, the chest infection, I think she must have picked that up in Samoa because the heavy rain and the humidity. But the fact is that she missed the Remembrance Day services, both at the Albert Hall and the Cenotaph. And now that, for her to miss those, and obviously the reason was because she's coughing all the time. She didn't want to embarrass anybody by cough, and the fact she's probably infectious. That would have been tragic. But of course, you know, losing that dog, I mean, it was a rescue dog. You know, it was Jack Russell, and it was one of, I think, Beth and Bluebell. And I remember once seeing them on an engagement down in Wiltshire, and the lady that walks them every day came along to see the Queen doing this engagement, and when she got out of the car and saw the dogs, she went over and petted the dogs, and it made a better picture than the rest of the engagement. So, yeah, I mean, they were special to her, and also to the King. I mean, the King absolutely loves animals. You know, I mean, he had a Jack Russell Tigger. He had I remember seeing him kiss his gun dog Harvey, who he absolutely worshipped. And of course, always feeding polo ponies his sugar after the games. I've seen him with llamas in New Zealand. I've even seen him stroke a lizard in the Cayman Islands. You know, and even with a parrot on his arm, with a parrot exploding with his feathers all over the place. I mean, he just loves animals, and I think, you know, one of the great joys was with the dogs when they would be walking up in Balmoral, the dogs would be with them. And of course, he's always had animals, as the late Queen had many dogs, but Camilla would be upset because it was, she got it from Battersea Dogs Home, didn't she? It was a rescue dog, but she would be upset about that. I mean, you know, my children have dogs, and when the dog eventually goes, because it doesn't have a long life, there is a lot of sadness in the family, and I imagine it'd be the same there for her.
So the royal family have we know that the late Queen, when you think of the Queen, you think of corgis.
We do, yeah.
You think of the how many corgis she had, since childhood up to when some of them sadly died in the later years.
Yeah.
But Beth and Bluebell, I think she's left with Bluebell now.
Yeah.
Are those dogs kind of seared on the public consciousness as much as the corgis? She did have Beth and Bluebell sewn into a coronation gown.
Oh, she actually did.
Yeah,
the
coronation
gown,
didn't she? So
that would be definitely our Queen would do something like that. Our Queen Camilla, but I mean the Queen's dogs. I mean at Sandringham, there's the dogs' graveyard where they're all buried. You know, I mean it was a big thing, and of course seeing the Queen walking with her dogs, snapping and slapping. And I once asked, why does the late Queen love dogs so much? Because they don't know she's the Queen. I think that's a very nice answer. And of course, you know, Queen Camilla, she just country woman, country lady, and will probably always had dogs all her life, and probably will go back to Battersea and get a replacement when she gets over the loss of Beth.
Well, I was thinking that surely that is the next step. I know when you lose a pet or you lose an animal, sometimes it's hard to replace.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to replace immediately because you want to, remember the pet you've got. But surely we'll be called down for a press day where she gets a new dog. Because I do remember, I think, do you remember there's some wonderful footage of, I think she was there with Beth, where there was a sausage on a curtain, I think, which was opening in a new building, and she got Beth to pull the sausage on the curtain to unveil the plaque. So there's some wonderful memories.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, it would be great. I mean, no, dogs in the royal family, I mean, it's always been the same. In fact, when the Duke of Edinburgh, when his last dog died, asked if he'd get another one, he said, no, because I won't last as long as the dog, and I do not want to, and he wouldn't take a dog in his latter years. So they've been associated with those all their life. And of course, horses, of course, and, they all ride and they all take part in these different, sports. Prince Charles played polo for years, and always the picture was not them playing polo, scoring a goal, or it was him feeding the polo ponies at the end, which of course he loved doing. So, sorry for poor Queen losing her dog, but it wasn't very well. It was very ill, and she did the proper thing.
How do you think she'll be feeling, do you think?
I think she'll look. It's a tough job she's doing now. She's now the Queen of our country, and her main role is obviously to support the King, and she will be getting on with it now. She'll be back to work now, and she's back at work now, and she'll be thinking about what she's doing. But at the same time, when she gets a moment, I think she'll be popping down to Battersea and probably find a replacement.
Look forward to it. But good news for her, she has been awarded with an honorary doctorate for literature.
Yeah, that's right.
She got this gong actually from Princess Anne. Gave it to her this week. Would that cheer her up? Do you think that's important for her to personally get it? But also, why does she get an honorary doctorate?
Well, because she does care about literature. Now, I've been with her when she's been reading to schools, encouraging schools to read. I've been in prisons with her where she's been with prisoners, making sure that they learn to read and reading to them. And it's a massive thing in her life, reading and literature, and people to engage with books. You know, too much now is TV. But, you know, and you and I know what a good book is wonderful. She tries to encourage that. And for that encouragement, she's been awarded this honorary doctorate, which I think is well deserved, personally. I mean, she just cares so much about it, and now somebody cares about her enough to give her this honorary doctorate.
But do you think she deserves it? I mean,
I do. Yes, yeah. I do. I really do. I think what this woman has achieved in such a show. I mean, they've been married 19 years now. I think it's in April next year. It's 20th anniversary. I hope he remembers it, the King. But in that 20 years, she's gone from zero to sort of, I imagine, it's about 80% positive as far as the people are concerned. I mean, she is much loved now, but she does work hard. You know, she does care. When the King was taken ill earlier this year, lots of engagement she carried out on her own, and in fact she changed dates so that she could be there and people would not be disappointed to lose their royal visit. So, you know, this woman is a powerful person in the life of the royal family now. She is certainly there to support her husband, but mostly hardworking, and I'm so impressed with the way she does it. And I mean, she's 77 now, you know, and most people would be retired now, but you know, she's just done this long trip to Australia and Samoa, and she did it with a smile on her face all the way through.
Yeah, we saw you talk about the last day on Samoa. That might be when she got the chest infection.
Probably
she was smiling through the rain, wasn't she, on Samoa?
And also the humidity, you know, the humidity was awful. Yeah, it is very important to keep the royal family safe, and I imagine William probably had some questions to ask. No, not a lot of time for the media, and he sort of treated us a bit like telegraph poles, you know, just walked round us. But I admired him for what he did.
I believe you've seen the King recently.
I have, yes. So we're down at Devon last week, the Marine training base. Now, that's where when he was the Prince of Wales, he trained when he became a helicopter pilot. And I watched their training on that course, and it is grueling.
Well, they call it the Tarzan course.
Oh, the Tarzan
right?
course, and you need to be Tarzan. I mean, some of the things they do on the ropes, climbing on. I mean, it's unbelievable. And in fact, they gave him a couple of pictures of him in his training. But when I look, he would wear a brand new uniform of the Captain General of the Marines, and I looked at the insignia on it. You know, obviously he's got the crown because he's the king now, but he's also got his wings because he flew in the Air Force. And he's got the parachutes because I remember when he did his first parachute jump down at Hull Lavington, and I was told he's the third one out jumping. I photographed everyone in case and he did that jump then, his first ever parachute jump, and then he went on to do more jumps and he qualifies. And as Colonel-in-Chief of the Parachute Regiment, of course, it's essential he has that. So he's a well-trained, and he's done it all. You know, he's flown planes, he's flown helicopters, he's served in the Navy, he captained a ship in the Navy, and he's an accomplished paratrooper. And so he was quite rightly doing that job. And you know, I once asked William why he's not getting married till he was 30, and he said, because I have to go to the army, because one day I'll be head of the forces. I'll have to go in the army, I have to go in the Navy, I have to go in the Air Force and the Marines. He said, and then I've got to go to business school, and there's just no time before that. And it's the same with our king now. But no, he was exemplary that day. I mean, it was a beautiful, it was almost like a summer's day. It was about 17, 18 degrees in the afternoon, and the troops just loved him being there, and they really gave them all a boost. And you know, the Marines, they're so proud of that. Compete in that course, you know, it is such a tough thing to do, and to qualify as a Marine, you're something special. And well, you know, they say once you're a Marine forever.
It's interesting you say about that because, you know, currently he's a man in his mid-60s and you see him in this uniform with all these medals and these wings and people say, well, what has he done? But I thought it was interesting that the royal family put those photographs out. Did you see? They put them on Instagram and they said this was him actually doing the kind of Tarzan course. Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, yes. I mean, as you say, yeah, he's I think he had his 76th birthday last week. Well, at least the week before last anyway. And you know, he's just amazing, the amount of work he's doing. I mean, he's supposed to be recovering from cancer, but you wouldn't know it. I mean, look at his program in the last few weeks. He's doing everything. I mean, he's meeting ambassadors. He's Privy Council meetings. He's going all over the country doing these visits, and I must say, he just impresses me so much. That man, he's like the Duracell bunny, you know. He just keeps going.
How did he look?
He looked good. He looked okay. I think a little bit tired. I mean, on that occasion where he would normally walk to the different venues, he was driven by a car. And I thought that was probably because they're trying to save his energy. And of course, when you're getting that treatment, you know, it does take a lot out of you. And but you know, he's just, you would never know it. He just gets on with it. To him, this job is so important. I mean, God, as I say before, I've said it before on this show, you know, he did the biggest apprenticeship anyone ever did to become king. And by God, it's paid off, because I think, in my view, and I think by the number of the people that turn up to watch him on these engagements, many people think he's doing a brilliant job. And I think, as long as he can do it for many more years to come.
Yeah, I'd say I'm more impressed with Charles as King Charles than I was as Prince of Wales.
Well, I've worked with him a long while as the Prince of Wales, and I know that he's the most humble man I've ever met. I mean, the things he does for other people that you never hear about, where he uses the power of his office to make life better for not just one people, but many, many people. And, you know, I could sit here all day and talk stories about him, what he's done for other people, because I've watched him. And I've watched him do it, but you can never praise him. You can never say that was brilliant, because he knows it's this power of the office as Prince of Wales, which he could do then. He can't do that now as the king. For instance, every year as Prince of Wales for the last 8 years, he goes to Ireland, because after the Queen went to Ireland in 2011, which actually was one of the best visits, probably the best visit I've ever done in my whole career, the whole thing about Britain and Ireland all the problems seemed to disappear. And every year, Prince and Camilla used to go back to a different part of Ireland to see, they wanted to get to every county. Now, he can't do that now because he's head of state, and now it's so much more difficult. I know he wants to, and that will be some time in the future, he'll go back there. But as Prince of Wales, he was going there and he was making such a difference. And, you know, I could see the crowds turned up for him there, and he got involved. I mean, he played Gaelic games. He just did everything. He went to all the great historical places, and I was so impressed with him. And I used to love that visit every year to Ireland. So those are the things he did as Prince of Wales, but it was the things helping people, you know, and quietly getting on with it, and never made a fuss, and I remember once we were down at Highgrove, and the British Asian Trust were organising a cycle ride, a fundraising cycle ride, and I remember they said to him, I was there, and they said to him, you know, since you got involved, sir, the money's just poured in, and he just shrugs it away, you know, because he just feels that that's not him, that's the office, the power of his office that does that. Well, that may be so, but as I say, he's an incredibly humble man, that's why I don't retire, because I just love working with him. I just think he's incredible, absolutely incredible.
You talk about he doesn't like praise, or he's uncomfortable with praise. He's not going to avoid praise with the Coronation Food Project, which he set up after the coronation, and then on his birthday last week, he opened up a whole new depot. And this is a whole idea with using his convening power, using his office. He's providing food from supermarkets that would normally go in the bin or normally be thrown away. He's providing a system that can actually be shared out to members of the public. I mean, he's going to get praise for that, and he should accept praise for that, because that's actually a wonderful thing that he's using his birthday in his office to do good.
Well, you know, you might offer it, and he might smile, but I don't think he wouldn't think that was important. He would think that's it, and they'll be getting on with something else now. I can tell you, Matthew, once we went to this refuge in Kathmandu in Nepal, and he came out and he said, "How can we help this lady?" She ran a refuge for women returning from the brothels in India, who were trafficked to the brothels in India. And through the Sun newspaper, I mean, we sold a limited edition of one of his paintings of the Himalayas, and we raised, I think, over nearly £80,000, and we bought a nice piece of land for this woman to build a proper centre. And that was him. That was his inspiration to do that. It was his idea to work with the Sun newspaper to make this happen. And we could have sold, it was a 250 limited edition, could have sold 1,000. But he used it, and it's because of that, this woman has now got this beautiful centre. And she's helping lots more people. That's just one of the things he does. You don't know about it. I know about it because I got involved in it. But he will be doing that all the time. And even now he's the head of state, he will be thinking things like that. He'll be thinking some ways where he can do this. And his sole purpose in life, I've said this constantly, you know, when he gets up in the morning and starts work, he starts work at 10 o'clock in his office. And his whole purpose of his day is to do good for others, never for himself. And that's what makes him, in my view, probably the most humble man I know.
That's quite a testimony after.
Yeah.
Can we talk briefly about security at the moment with the members of the royal family?
Well, Windsor Castle, yes.
Windsor Castle. So the Sun front page this week, the Windsor estate is vast. The Windsor Castle has got massive walls. You're going to really struggle to get in there, by the way. But the Windsor estate is vast. And a couple of weeks ago, 2 men climbed over the fence, managed to steal 2 farm vehicles. They crashed through the gate where William and Kate use quite regularly. That's their Shore Farm gate. That's the one that they'll often take their children to school.
Well, yeah.
We know it well. How worried should the royal family be? And I say this because we had the fella that jumped over the fence at Christmas Day with a crossbow. We had, earlier this year, there was a chap that, and it didn't get massively reported because he was held for under the Mental Health Act, but he did get to the garden by Windsor Castle. And now we've got this, it was a late night incident. The Waleses were asleep in Adelaide Cottage. There would be security there. It's an impossible place to defend from burglars, the Windsor estate, because these are fences rather than the walls of the castle.
And it's vast, the estate.
It's vast,
no, of course, yes, I agree, yeah. Well, they must be kind of worried. I bet they've been burning the midnight oil trying to sort that one out. But listen, I mean, Michael Fagan got in the Queen's bedroom at Buckingham Palace. Look, you know, nothing's perfect. And that was all because events just all fell into place where one was going off duty and one was coming off duty and he just walked in the room. Look, this can happen. But I mean, imagine that's quite frightening. I'm sure William would be quite concerned about that. And I imagine that... but they've got so much security, you know, it's all sort of everything, but smashing through a gate, I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah, well, I think there's layers of security.
That's right, yeah.
So I think if they'd turned left instead of right, you know, there would have
I think if you'd gone anywhere
police.
near the royal apartments, there would have been, I bet it's very well policed, and I imagine that questions would be asked, but I mean...
Do you think these kind of things would bother Prince William? He's there with his family in Adelaide Cottage with this happening down the road. I mean, this is the kind of thing that could happen to...
Well, the thing is, yes. I mean, look, you know, it is very important to keep the royal family safe, and I imagine William probably had some questions to ask, but I mean, they just went for the public vehicle, for the vehicles, didn't they? Yeah, not to harm anybody.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, I mean, the fear is that maybe they were watching and looking for weak points, but I'm sure the royal family are very protected.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I would imagine they wouldn't have got too close to the house anyway. They'd have been jumped on,
Good stuff. Now, this week would have actually have been the late Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip's wedding anniversary.
That's right, November, yes.
The both of them have kind of, because events have moved on so quickly since particularly Queen Elizabeth II died and Prince Philip, maybe take a time just to think about their marriage and the kind of success of that couple. They were there for so long, as Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth II. What are your kind of memories, looking back? Because I say, we don't talk about the late Queen or Prince Philip as much as now they've passed as I thought we would. But it's their wedding anniversary. I thought we'd take an opportunity to maybe talk about any fun memories.
It's, 1947 they got married. I mean, that's quite a long while, isn't it? I mean, that's... but that marriage was, when you think... photographing the Queen for many years was absolute joy. Photographing Prince Philip for many years was not so good. I mean, he had not a lot of time for the media, and he sort of treated us a bit like telegraph poles, just walked round us. But I admired him for what he did. I mean, he was mentioned in dispatches during the war, and of course he was the captain of his own ship when he was based in Malta, and he gave all that up for to serve the Queen and the country, and a man of that sort of, he was a powerful man in many ways. He was a great artist. He was a great filmmaker. I mean, some of the films he made of his children, everything he did was perfect. He was a good cricketer. He was a good sailor. He was a good polo player. He was good at everything, and he was good serving this country because for sort of 70 years. He was walking behind the Queen, shaking hands with the mayoress while the Queen was talking to the mayor. And he did that with total commitment forever until he retired a few years before he died. And that man was an amazing man. And that marriage, I remember one of the last trip to Australia in 2011 in Perth, and a child couldn't get to see the Queen, and Prince Philip lifted her over the barrier and took the flowers off her, and he gave them to the Queen. And the look between the two of them when he did that, it was something special. And I've seen that a few times with them. I remember once at Sandringham, the same Sandringham church service on Christmas Day, and he wanted to leave early. But the one with the picture that really sums it all up was the last time he was at the cenotaph, and he was on the balcony, and his hip was really hurting him, and he was in great pain. And the Queen pleading with him to go, and he wouldn't do that. To him, being there was his duty. Yeah. And he was in so much pain. And I remember as he left, puff of his cheek, that he was getting away to get some relief. And that, to me, summed it all up about that man. Even till in his 90s, he was doing his duty for this country. And so, looking back, although he didn't like me very much, I quite admired him a lot.
Good. Well, a wonderful marriage and wonderful couple, and I'd like to remember them as often as we can. Just time for quick-fire questions. We'll have to be quick, Arthur. Yeah. We're talking about tattoos earlier. So which royal do you think would actually get a tattoo?
I think Prince Harry would do it. I think
Prince Harry will eventually get a tattoo.
I think eventually might get one, but probably won't be Meghan.
Probably not be Meghan. Which royal spoils their pets the most?
Oh, the King, our King. I mean, he just absolutely... adores animals.
Finally, last question. Which royal would you least like to be caught by if you were a burglar?
Probably William, because he's got a bit of a temper. I think he would give me a good idea.
William or Princess Anne?
Well, no, maybe not. Princess Anne would give him a bit of a tongue, but William would probably lap him a right-hander, yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Arthur. Always a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the show, then please let us know in the comments. We do love to read them. And subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode.